the White House, Camp David, Waffle House. These are places all with rancid vibes. Vibes you can feel within your bones. And that is my job, Malicus Marcroix, to investigate these vibes. For I am the encrypted explorer, and I will be your guide into the mundane mysteries around us all. Yes. This is Malicus Marcroix. I am the encrypted explorer. I'm making this podcast here to exfoliate some ideas I've had kicking around in my head for a great many years now. Because you might go on forums like Reddit or Facebook groups, and you may think that they're telling you the truth. Problem is, infiltrated by the CIA. All of them. Every last one of them. Infiltrated straight through by the CIA. It's sad. Absolutely heartbreaking. You see, that's what I try telling my mother, at least. She doesn't really listen to me. She's the one that named me Malicus. Should have known things weren't going to go peachy keen smooth when you name your kid Malicus. She names her dogs after states of the Union, but only the states before the Civil War. So she's running really close to a wall here where she's going to have to make a decision. I forgot to mention the ones that stayed with the Union after the Civil War. There's the Deep South, the Confederacy, and then Texas as well. She doesn't recognize that as a legitimate state of the Union because she can explain it all herself. She's got a lot of ideas, and our current Pomeranian, Illinois, on his last legs, and she's looking to adopt. I'm getting off the topic here. I'm making a podcast because my fan told me that's something I should do, is make a podcast and exfoliate all these ideas I've had floating around in my mind about telling the real truth about cryptids, zoology, all this stuff, and get it straight. Because that's the thing. The CIA is a massive disinformation organization. They don't play by the rules. They generate rules, and then they hand you the rule book, and they take their rule book and they put it in the dishwasher and they run it a few cycles. They just eliminate that rule book. They get it all smudgy and smeary, and then they bring in psychics and they put the psychics before the book, and they say, what does this say? This is our rule book. You need to give us straight answers. And the psychics, they've got their glass candles. They're looking at that book, and they can't tell CIA. They could just use we're standing there holding out our rule books. We're saying, please just take our rule book. Please read the rules. They're right here. You wrote the rules. They're like, no. The psychics have their glass candles. They're going to figure this out. They're going to put together the solution here. And the solution is this: disinformation decentralized. They've got bad actors, 1,000 monkeys in a room powered by a supercomputer and typing away the Wendigoon's real, which it's not a real thing. CIA actor in a trench coat behind a school offering ketamine to 2-year-olds. That's what that is. The Wendigo does not exist on the planar level. Spiritually, there's an argument. Technically, anything we dream up in our heads, that becomes a real thing in the spiritual plane, the plane of creativity, which trickles on down to us. Now, you might be wondering to yourself, hey, Malicus Marcroix, how'd you come up with all these ideas? I didn't come up with them. Nope. Didn't come up with a single one. Now, the CIA came up with the rule book, and I don't play by the rules. I'm a rogue actor. Like Adam Sandler. I don't play by anyone's rules but the ones that I write down for myself to use in my own rule book. I keep it under my bed, but darn it, if Indiana didn't chew that mother to little, what's it called? Pulp. Cut it to pulp. Well, ate it to pulp. And that's a lame excuse. That's a dog ate my homework thing. And buddy, the dog ate my rule book, so I can't play by no rules anymore. That's the truth. I'm not messing with you. That's just how it is. I don't have an option to go back. I don't have a time machine. The Plutons will not let me use their time machine because I don't know if you know this about Plutons. They're very, very specific about time travel and all that stuff. And timeline rules, they've got a rule book. I've read it. It's insane, the level of detail they go to, because there's some butterfly effect people, alright? Well, aliens. I think it would be disrespectful to call them aliens or people. I don't know what the Pluton word as a, neutral term for their existence. They exist not on Pluto, they exist on Phobos, Mars's moon. I gotta keep this straight in my own head. But anyway, I'm off the point here. What I'm supposed to be talking about is my spark of, not inspiration, push. What's the word when someone pushes you into traffic and you get killed by a car speeding over you real fast? Brutal, horrible way to go. Poor Virginia. Inspiration, I think, would be the best term for this. Well, let's do some backgrounds on me, Malicus. I was born 33 years ago in Pleasant Pines. It's an unincorporated suburb of Indianapolis, but it also has its own civic government. Now, that's an interesting thing because technically it's a part of Indianapolis. Indianapolis rules it, but they also have their own city government that's under Indianapolis. Indianapolis can, set the rules and budgets and whatnot. My dad was the mayor of it until he died. He died when I was 4, 5. Anyway, they elected a new mayor. That's what I'm getting at. Now, the mayor serves for life, which is part of the reason why he was the mayor until he died. And they tend to, vote in aldermen because they don't want to have a guy that's 22 becoming the mayor of Pleasant Pines, because that's a real investment. You gotta trust that this guy's gonna stay straight his whole life. But anyway, my dad was the mayor. He died under possibly suspicious circumstances. I haven't had the chance to investigate it. I don't really believe the police reports, but when he did die, he left a lot of money for my mom. She's been living it up ever since. And I got a trust fund coming someday. But all that to say, he was dead and we were living in a very nice house when I was young. Now, when I was about 7 or 8, when you got memories in your head from when you're a kid, they're not all that straight. They don't follow a straight line. You'll be like, this is when I was 11 and I was meeting President Obama and shaking his hand. And this is when I was 4 and I was chewing on electrical wires like a rodent. They don't fold in. They don't become a nice storybook you can just flip through. Flip. Yeah, this is what I did. Until you get older, 20 plus. That's kind of a haze too, now that I think about it. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I was talking. Anyway, when I was 7 or 8 years old, my room was... Okay, I was abducted by aliens, and I'll get into all the details about that when I get there, right? But I was abducted by aliens, and I woke up when I was 7 or 8 years old, one or the two, and my room was really quiet, like pin drop sort of quiet. And then I just hear feet on the ground, like squishy foot sounds. Normal foot sounds everyone makes when they're walking. But that was the way I was hearing it. I was hearing foot sounds, but I wanted to get up and get a glass of water because my throat was just dry. It was so dry. And my eyes were dry too. They were open, but I needed to blink them, but I couldn't blink. My eyes were just stuck open. I could not understand it. Like, why are my eyes so dry? So that's when I just figured out that, like, I couldn't get up. Like, I was stuck in my bed. I was frozen by alien technology, or perhaps magic. The judgment's out. They probably do know magic. They're very advanced spiritually, but it was probably technology. Like, maybe they stabbed me with a needle. That doesn't make sense, because, all right, let's move on to the next part of the story. I was stuck. I was laying in bed, and the worst thing about it was that I was like, I had like all the bad things that could happen when you're in bed and you wake up in the middle of the night. I had like a bunch of sweat. I really needed to pee, and my mouth was thirsty. The triple offensive, the triple entente. Those are the good guys. The axis of evil empires. It was the axis of evil empires just assaulting me right then. And then, I tried to speak. I tried to say, like, I need to pee. Or, I need to pee. I need a little drink of water. Please, someone help me. Someone blink my eyes for me. Hold my eyes and close them up and down. Blink my eyes for me. I tried to say that, but the problem is I just couldn't move. And I just kept hearing the foot sounds all over the damn place. They weren't staying still. Like in most alien abduction stories, the aliens are like ghosts. They just stand there and they stare at you and they're spooky. But in mine, they were walking around all over the damn place. They were making a ton of noise. I could hear dishes in the other room. I don't know what the hell they were doing. I don't know where my mom was. Well, my mom, she recreationally takes sleeping pills. I think that's the right term for it. She takes a lot of those, and she's out like a light. There is no waking that woman up when she takes her pills, believe me. But the other thing was, I had this Garfield nightlight that I absolutely hated. And it was next to the door, and it was glowing orange. That's because Garfield's an orange cat, and it was glowing orange. And then he's in a nightcap. And he's got his little bear Pookie next to him. But then beside him, and this is why I hated the damn nightlight, was the damn rat. The damn rat he's always trying to catch. That rat was standing right next to him in the nightlight, and I hated that. It scared me so much. I'd wake up and I'd see the little rat there, and I'd be like, ugh. Or I'd be like, oh no, not the rat. I'd be like that. But the thing is that the Garfield mouse is gray, but it would glow orange, which was very disconcerting because rats are supposed to be gray, but why would it glow orange? Why would it do that? I don't understand why. To this day, I don't know why it would glow orange. If it's like plastic and the light's supposed to come through the plastic, wouldn't it be gray? And then the nightcap would be blue because it's a nightcap. The box would be brown and Pookie would be brown. Everything should be its proper color. Instead, it was all orange. And that was very discombobulating for a child me. It was something I just couldn't wrap my head around conceptually. But the aliens were very easy because they weren't in the room yet. They're still walking around, crinkling all the dishes, all that stuff. And I was like, I thought we were getting robbed. But the door opened, my bedroom door. And this is when it becomes more the tropey alien abduction story. Like, I woke up in my room and the 3 aliens were looking at me because there's 3 aliens looking at me. 3 Atlanteans. They're not aliens because they're on our planet. They're under the water. I'm burying the lead. I'm digging the lead up out of the ground here. The Atlanteans we would refer to colloquially as aliens. Like if you were to say, I met a weird fucking thing, it didn't look like it belonged on our planet, that'd be an Atlantean. And it would also be like that fish with big teeth with the glow cap on its head. The big glow cap on its head. The glowfishy. That would be alien. You see one of those walking around, you'd be like, what the hell's that alien thing? You wouldn't think it was a dang old thing from our planet that evolved here, but that's what the Atlanteans are. They're gray-skinned. You would typically call these grays, but I call them Atlanteans because that's how they want to be identified. And if someone says, I want to be called this, you call them that. You don't just rest on your observations of the world, you moron. You haven't seen the whole damn world yet. You haven't walked every little bit of dirt yet. So if someone says, that's Mount Poopy Dump, and you go, well, I want to call it Mount Everest, don't call it Mount Everest, call it Mount Poopy Dump. That's what everyone around there calls it. That's why you don't call an Atlantean a gray. Atlanteans didn't call themselves grays. They called themselves Atlanteans. And they even translated their dang old language for Pluto back in old ancient Greece. And he wrote down the Atlanteans, they lived here on an island that sank into the ocean. Now, he got his chronology wrong. Can't blame him. He lived in ancient Greece. How is he supposed to know that they sank into the ocean 165,000 years ago? How is he supposed to know that? Huh? Well, the Atlanteans told him, but he was like, I was born 14 years ago. I'm not listening to you talking about years that don't even make sense. I can't count that on my fingers. The ancient Greeks were a bunch of morons. They barely knew how to run a city-state, and that's a single city. You expect them to know years over 1,000? Are you serious? They didn't even know how to build bridges until the Romans came, and you're going to take their word? When you got a dang old Atlantean who has 165,000 years of history right next to him, right in front of him, you're going to go, oh, but Pluto back in ancient Greece, he wrote the story, and he wrote it right. And they'll be like, we told him exactly what to write, and he didn't do it. That's like all these Christians, they trust humans writing down in the Bible. They trust the humans. The word of God may be infallible because he's in the spiritual plane. I know, I've met him. I don't know how to refer to them. Don't meet God. It's very confusing. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, the Atlanteans. So they're gray-skinned, but they're also extremely small. They've got extremely advanced technology. I'm not talking about 3 feet tall. All right? Not talking about that. Not for a second. No. They're about 6 inches tall. They're really goddamn small. They're like little mice, gray mice. Maybe that's why. Nah, never mind. So they're extremely small, but they have holographic projections that make themselves look extremely big. I mean, you go from 6 inches to 3 feet. That's huge. If, a herbal supplement you'd get off of a mildly sketchy website actually gave you the length that it promised, you'd be like, wow, that's a massive improvement. That looks a lot bigger. But even then, that's inches off of inches. That's not inches into feet. That's a incomprehensible improvement. So Atlanteans, they stand under the holograph and then project themselves upwards. And they've got a little thing in their neck that makes their voice boom out really loud so you can actually hear them. But only if they actually want to talk to you. Otherwise, they don't really say much. They're kind of silent observers. But anyway, let's get back to the real thing here, which is me in my room not able to move. which I still don't know how they're able to do that. I don't know how they paralyze you. They've never told me. Because if they told us, we'd probably be able to figure out some countermeasures here. That would be a really bad thing for them. Because then, we'd have a step up. We'd no longer be getting paralyzed in our beds and waking up like, I guess I'm getting abducted tonight. Wouldn't be any more of that. Not for a second. Every night it'd be like birth control. You take your anti-abduction control. And no more abductions. Anyway, back to the topic at hand on how I got abducted. They were just standing there, and one of them starts walking forward. And he's making, normal foot sounds as he's walking up to me. And he holds out his hand, and he places it on the edge of my bed. And he's not saying a dang old word. He's not saying anything. He's just looking at me with his little black eyes. And I'm getting seriously scared here. I'm like, I want to die. I want to get shot in the back of my head and dumped into a mass grave. That's how scared I was at that moment. Which I really shouldn't have been scared at all. Because Atlanteans are very peaceful. They just like to, take you open a bit. Cut open your stomach. Put some stuff in there. That's not that bad. Look at what we do to cows. Atlantean could impregnate me or something. Give me ovaries and fill them up with their alien batter. That's what an Atlantean could do, but they don't do that. Meanwhile, we're cloning cows and doing all sorts of unethical experiments. I mean, really think about that for a second. You think that's good? You think we're being the good guys there? You think good guys cut open people or cows and stuff in new organs? No, wait, I think I got it wrong. Well, at least they don't eat us. That I know of. Maybe they ate one or two people just to figure it out. To be like, is this good? And they're like, no. No, this tastes too much like Jaguar. Put it in the trash. It's like, damn it, that was my last check. I spent my last check on some good human meat. And this shit's ass. Sort of like eating tofu or something. Anyway, so he puts his hand on the edge of my bed and he's staring at me with his black eyes. And he hasn't said a word yet. And his other friend, he starts walking up and he's looking down at me the whole time. And he leans down right next to my head and I can start to smell them now. They don't smell good. They smell like salmon that's been out in the sun. Like bad fish, not good fish. It's like bad sushi. Like you go to an open air sushi cart. That's what he smells like. He smells like the little dustbin next to the sushi cart. That's with all the half-eaten dang old sushi. Because someone's like, I want to try wasabi. And then things didn't go well for them. But that's what they smell like. And I'm just my eyes are wide. They need to blink. I want to ask him to blink my eyes for me. But he's just staring at me. And then he starts speaking. And you would think it would be a very deep voice. Or maybe even a neutral voice. But he just spoke to me in my own damn voice. Which is probably why people think they're telepathic. Because they hear it in their head. And they're like, that's my exact voice. How can he do that? It's just technology. It's the thing in their throat. It mimics your brain waves. So technically it's sort of telepathic, but still auditory. Because it's studying your bone structure, which is how it sounds exactly like your voice. If you talk and you listen to a recording of yourself talking, it sounds a lot lighter, airier, more nasally, because the bones in your head, they're reverberating when you're speaking. And without that in your ears, guess what? Your voice sounds completely different now, doesn't it? Shouldn't have invented phonographs. Shouldn't have done that. Now you sound like a jackass. Don't you feel like a jackass for doing that? Wonder if Atlanteans got any inventions like that where they're just why the hell did we make this? Why did we decide to make a program that captures speech, huh? Why'd we do that? But anyway, he started speaking to me, and he said, "Be not afraid." I was like, damn, he's a dang old angel. The dang old angel's come down to heaven for me. Or, he's a dang old angel. He's going to take me up to heaven. Yay. Was what I was like thinking. But first I wanted him to blink my damn eyes or give me some water or something. Anyway, he says, "Be not afraid. I just want to take you into my spaceship and poke around in you for a bit." And I mean, Atlanteans are advanced, but they don't really understand consent. They don't get that very much. They don't understand that even if you tell someone what you're going to do to them, that isn't an automatic yes. I still have the option to say no. Now, current me wouldn't have said no, because that would erase current me from the timeline, and I'd be in a different dimension. Because of the way time has progressed, I'd have to say yes. And so no matter what, these events would have passed. No matter what, this would have happened. So I didn't really have a choice there. Is it okay? It's fine. I didn't have a choice. So they took me up to their spaceship. Well, first they gave me some water, which was very nice. They must have read my mind. Anyway, after I had a glass of water, which they sort of like they kind of waterboarded me with it because I couldn't move any muscles, but I was really thirsty. So they sort of like tipped my head back, and then they had the water there, all that. So they take me into their spaceship. They've got teleportation powers, by the way, or technology, maybe magic. They take me to the ship, and I'm on a steel table. Damn thing is cold, real cold. Like I was, It didn't help that they had taken all my clothes off. They're kind of freaky aliens like that. But I mean, how else are they going to cut into my leg? Well, that's what they ended up doing, but I got too far ahead there. So I'm on the table, very cold. I mentioned I had the water. What else was there? There's something else. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm laying there on the table. They've got all these medical devices and whatnot, which is very, we've been using scalpels for what, 1,000 years? And they're still using them. They still got scalpels, dude, the little metal tools and whatnot. It ain't broke, don't fix it. What, do you think they're going to have a laser scalpel? Nope, they just cut you straight open. And that's what he did. He just started at my chest cavity, right where the ribs end, just sliced open my stomach and peeled that shit back. And I was like, I couldn't actually see him doing it. I could feel it though. It's like a pressure. Have you ever had like head surgery? When I was 14, I fell off my bike, hit my head on a fire hydrant. You don't feel pain. None at all. You just feel pressure. It's very interesting. There aren't many nerve endings in your head itself. Your hair has nerve endings. That's how you feel the wind and whatnot. But if you hit your head and it sinks into your head, not much pain at all. They're having to refix my skull and everything. They didn't use any painkiller. It was just like, you're feeling them pulling that stuff around. But that's what it felt like when they opened up my stomach, which doesn't make much sense because you got a lot of nerves in your stomach. Just try stabbing yourself. It does not feel good. It feels like white hot and sort of like, I didn't stab myself. I got stabbed. I was hit by an ice cream truck, and the little cone that he had, like little cones for the headlights, they stabbed me. And it did not feel good, but that settlement money did. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, so he cut open my stomach. He ripped it, pulled it. He pulled it to the side, and I could just feel him rooting around in there, like, and they're like, he still has his appendix. Rip it out. Put it in our tracker. Put in our tracker. Hey guys, can I help? Get out of here. Get out. Go fly the ship. We can't risk losing the ship. Okay. And they're talking to themselves and all that, and rooting around, and I feel a pinch, and then like a wave of pleasure, like extreme. I've never felt that good in my life before. And it turns out I peed all over myself. That's what that was. And they got real mad about that. They were like cursing and whatnot. And so the alien, he lifted my head by the scalp. I still couldn't feel anything, and he showed me my open stomach, and he's pointing at things in my stomach, and he's telling me what they are. He like took out some of my large intestine, and he's like, "This is full of shit, just like you and your teachers." And he put it back into me, and then he lifted up my leg, and he took a scalpel, and he stabbed it into it. And he's like, "Can you feel that?" And Atlanteans have a real problem with asking you questions when you can't answer them, because I didn't feel it, but I couldn't answer yes or no, because all my nerves were shut down. I couldn't feel anything, which meant you can't speak because your nerves can't contract your vocal cords or whatnot. And he just pulls that knife up, and it was like, felt nothing. He like pulled the flesh back, and I still felt nothing. And he took this it was like a thing of rice. It's like one of those microchips they put in dogs. And he stuck it in there, and then he waved his hand over the cut, and it all healed. It was all fine, really. Which you wouldn't think it would be fine. I mean, you get severely cut like that. That's the other thing. There's no blood at all. So maybe they stopped my heart or something. How else when they stopped the blood? Because once you bleed a lot, if they like cut open your leg, there's like the female arteries in there or something. And they cut open my stomach. There wasn't any blood. It was like I had no blood. Maybe if I was like black, I could tell if they drained all my blood, but I'm like Irish white, so you take all the blood out of my body, I'm still pale. Pale as dang old moon. There's no fixing that. You take all the blood out of my body, you can't even tell. It's like I'm not even existing. Anyway, so and then they did the same thing with my stomach. They made me watch as they did that. And then they were like, "You've been very helpful to me. So here's what we're going to do. You're going back down to Earth, buddy." And then I was in my bed. But the thing was, in my right hand was a dumb little sucker. That's the word for it, sucker. I had a little dumb sucker in my hand. But I will never forgive the alien for this, because Atlanteans can read brainwaves, but it gets all confused, because I love dumb suckers, but I only like pina colada ones. He gave me a dang old root beer one. What am I supposed to do with that? I hate root beer flavoring. I can't even drink root beer. It makes me vomit. What am I supposed to do with root beer dum-dum? I'm not going to eat that. At that age, you think, okay, come here, wouldn't been West Virginia. States admitted. Come here, Michigan. I've got a sucker for you here. It's delicious. And then it's actually root beer. But no, I wasn't evil as a child, so I wouldn't have done that. I was actually a very well-behaved child. I won an award in elementary school. I think it was 4th grade for most well-behaved child in the classroom, which mostly thanks to Ritalin. Ritalin will make you behave really well in school. Like, you will be the teacher's dang old pet because you don't want to do anything else. I mean, they might as well just, instead of Ritalin, just give an ADHD kid, some pot brownies or something. Just have them green out, because it'd be the same effect. It's not like you're really writing things down in school. You're more just spaced out. You don't exactly know what's happening. Sort of like being abducted by aliens. Not like aliens. I like aliens, but not by. And Atlanteans aren't aliens, and they're not Greys. They're Atlanteans. Remember that at least. Don't call the Greys Atlanteans. And this is the core centerpiece of why I'm making this podcast. All right, we have to get things straight here, because I see people all the time calling them Greys, and I'll be in the comments section. I'll correct them. I'll say they're not Greys, they're Atlanteans. Trust me, I've actually talked to them, and they'll say some very mean remarks to that. You don't understand how mean people in the cryptid space can be until you take away their toy. They're like little children. They don't get to play with grays anymore, and they throw a big old fit. It's like when you tell them Bigfoot isn't real. They go, no, Bigfoot's really real. I really saw Bigfoot. It's like, no, you probably saw like a gorilla at a zoo, and then you ate too many mushrooms out in the middle of nowhere, and your brain combined things. And you didn't have control over that. But I mean, really, Bigfoot does not exist. They're not real. Now, Sasquatches, could make a case for that. I think maybe if I was in the right area, but they have a whole show filled with Bigfoot hunters. They have all these classifications for different types of Bigfoots. They've never caught one on camera. They've got $80,000 worth of production budget. They can't even fake one. They can't even make a fake Bigfoot, so you get like some sort of season catharsis. Like, oh, I watched 20 hours of 4 hillbillies bumble through West Virginia and do nothing. Riveting. Couldn't even fake having a Bigfoot. Like, they had one of the guys get kidnapped by a Bigfoot, and then his camera that he had on his head was like capturing him just falling over. And I don't want to be fat phobic or anything like that. I don't want to offend anyone, but he was a guy on the larger side of the spectrum. And guys like that tripping and falling while walking around, not a far stretch. And maybe he just got embarrassed. Maybe you're just like, damn it, this is the 5th time today I've fallen. I can't let them know that I did this. I'm just going to kidnap myself and lock myself up in a shack in the woods I remember passing 20 minutes ago. Isn't that more plausible than a Bigfoot capturing someone but somehow evading being filmed by the 18 different cameras that are around everyone at all times? Doesn't that make more sense? However, Atlanteans are very real. You need to know that. I've met them. I've talked to them. I've been to Atlantis, not physically. I was there spiritually. Atlantis is technically underground. It's in the mantle layer. It didn't just sink into the ocean, it was absorbed into Iceland. So it's underneath Iceland, and anytime an Atlantean gets angry, that's why there's volcanoes going up, because they have to vent all their negative emotions. They're very tied to the earth, and that's how they're able to get around. We've only recently started seeing flying saucers because we've awakened spiritually on another level because of all the fluoride, Florida fluoride. Because of all the fluoride we put into the water. And that's made people, sort of wake up. They started opening their eyes. And without that in the water, not only would our teeth all be rotten, we wouldn't be able to see flying saucers. And that's a large reason why UFOs have started going away, because of these deeply conservative people who watch Dr. Strangelove, and they listen to him. They listen to the maniac that destroyed the world. I don't understand why they would ever do that. Why would you listen to a psychopath who nukes the world and ends everything? Like, why? Are you just bored? I don't get it. Anyway, so that's why all the flying saucers are going away, is because people have been listening to that problem, and they've been going, well, we better get it out of the water, and whoopsie, our spiritual connection is fading, and that's why everyone's becoming more insane, because you can't just awaken your third eye and then sort of dust it off into the corner. You got to live with the repercussions. If you go off of your medicine, you stop drinking the fluoride, then it's over for you. You're going to go insane. The mortal veil was pierced, and you can't just unpierce it. You can't take it out. You lost your astral cherry, and sorry, buddy, you're pregnant. All right? It's one of those. You had really dissatisfying, spiritual awakening, and you're already pregnant. So now you got to give birth, and that birth is going to be us all sort of realizing our place in this existence, and that's another reason why I'm making this podcast. So anyway, I was back at home. I was put into bed by the aliens. They didn't show up, actually. After they like sealed me all up and everything, I just woke up in bed and I was like sobbing, which I didn't understand why. I was crying, but I didn't know why I was crying. Really, it didn't make all that much sense to me. It was like, okay, I guess I'm crying now. Because it wasn't like it was a shocking experience to be abducted. It's sort of something that, I just knew was going to happen at some point. At some point, something crazy was going to happen in my life, and I just had to deal with it. And I guess mine was getting abducted by aliens. But that's when everything changed for me. And partially it's because of all the fluoride in the water that I'd been drinking. That played a big role because it woke me up at some level. Because really, when you think about it, if you don't have the fluoride, then you're not getting woken up now, are you? Did you think about that? If you don't have that assistance, that push, like I was talking about before, where like you're never going to get hit by a semi-truck if someone doesn't push you in front of that semi-truck and you get brutally murdered. Except in this, it's actually a good thing. It's a good semi-truck that makes you feel really good inside and makes you start seeing reality for what it is. So it's kind of like getting hit by a semi-truck and then isekaiing into the exact same world that you're in, but everything's a little bit stranger now. And don't worry about it, all right? Don't worry. I'm going to be your guide. I have all the experience. I have 33 years minus 7 experience. Okay, I should not be doing the math in my head because I don't know math. But I've got that much experience behind me here. That's how much experience I have exploring all these fantastical things. And so stay tuned. I'm going to post another episode. Maybe I'll talk about the Martians next because it's very important. Either the Martians or the Plutons. Because I discovered the Plutons next because the Plutons are best friends with the Atlanteans. They're like bros. Because the Plutons are older than us, and they're the guys that fly around the flying saucers. I'll get to reptilians at some point, but you don't really reptilians are boring, okay? That's the thing about it, reptilians, they're really boring. They're not even from our galaxy. Who cares? Reptilians are annoying. Maybe I'll put together a recipe book if you're able to get reptilian eggs. Very important. You should probably find reptilian eggs and try them because I've heard from Plutonians that they're very, very good. You should definitely try them. But that's beside the point. That's all for this episode of the eNcryptid eXpLorer. Yes. Thank you. Please do whatever it is that you want to do to show support. I don't know what that is. I'm not good at internet stuff. My best friend's helping me through all this. He set everything up and just lets me talk. And that's the important thing, is that we start talking about the real facts. Don't come to me and call them grays, okay? I won't be able to hold it back. I'll just let you have a piece of my mind. And it's not going to be a small piece. It's going to be a big piece of my mind, because I need to correct the record and set it straight on this. Anyway, that's all for today's episode. Goodbye.